Welcome to Lab 5, comma splices and more. And we have a little joke here. Our little friend is saying, come on, man, let's learn about commas. Get it? Come on, man, comma, man. Anyway, all right, let's get started. What is a comma splice? A comma splice is an error that creates a run-on sentence. The error occurs when attempting to join two complete sentences, also known as two independent clauses, with only a comma. For example, this sentence contains a comma splice. I did not know what to say. I did not know what to think. Notice that I did not know what to say is a complete thought. It's also known as a complete sentence, or because it is included in a larger sentence, it's called an independent clause. It can stand on its own. I did not know what to say. Similarly, I did not know what to think is another complete sentence, complete independent clause. The error occurs when using a comma to join the two sentences, the two thoughts, into a single sentence. Students often assume a comma is sufficient to join closely related ideas to create a single continuous thought. Students are often tempted to join or splice two complete sentences or independent clauses together with only a comma. Here's another example. This has been a very dry summer. Therefore, the supply of water in the reservoirs is low. In these examples, we have two separate independent clauses that are not joined appropriately. Two independent clauses must be joined in an appropriate way. A comma is not enough to link two independent clauses. You may wonder, what's the big deal? Why not just join two sentences with a comma? Commas and all punctuation are like little road signs to help readers find their way as they interpret your meaning. As a writer, you want us to believe in you and what you have to say. We want to look up to you and learn from you. But when encountering a comma error, educated readers will wonder if you're really all that well educated. If we can't trust you to know where one sentence ends and another begins, how can we trust the deeper issues you are writing about? Correcting comma splices. Several ways exist to correct comma splices. The easiest is to separate the complete thoughts into two separate sentences with a period. I did not know what to say, period. I did not know what to think. This has been a very dry summer, period. Therefore, comma, the supply of water in the reservoirs is low. However, we often want to link two related thoughts into one sentence. So separating them into two sentences, while grammatically correct, does not achieve our desire to link the thoughts for our reader. So a second way to correct a comma splice is to use a semicolon instead of a comma. One way to remember this is to imagine that the dot above the comma in a semicolon has the power of a period to create a full stop. I did not know what to say, semicolon. I did not know what to think. This has been a very dry summer, semicolon. Therefore, comma, the supply of water in the reservoirs is low. Using a semicolon is a proper technique to join two complete thoughts and to suggest the two sentences are very closely related. But a word of warning, use semicolons sparingly. Save them only for instances when two ideas are truly closely related. Overusing semicolons is the sign of an amateur writer. A third way to correct a comma splice is to add a coordinating conjunction just after the comma. These words are coordinating conjunctions: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. I did not know what to say, comma, and I did not know what to think. I did not know what to say, comma, nor did I know what to think. This has been a very dry summer, comma, and therefore the supply of water in the reservoirs is low. This technique only works with the words for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. To help us remember these special words, coordinating conjunctions, we use the term fanboys. One final way to correct comma splices is to use what is called subordination. Subordination simply means taking an independent clause and morphing it into an introductory clause. Introductory clauses are said to be subordinate to main clauses because they cannot stand alone. Here's an example. I did not know what to say, I did not know what to think, can become because I did not know what to say, I did not know what to think. The word because, when added to I did not know what to say, makes the clause into an introductory clause, and this corrects the comma splice. Because I did not know what to say, comma, I did not know what to think. Remember that a comma splice only occurs when two independent clauses are joined with a comma. When a dependent clause or subordinate clause is joined with an independent clause using a comma, there is no error. Here are other examples of how subordination can correct a comma splice. Error. This has been a very dry summer, comma, therefore, comma, the supply of water in the reservoirs is low. Corrected. Since this has been a very dry summer, comma, the supply of water in the reservoirs is low. Error. I went to the pharmacy, comma, I needed to refill my prescription. Corrected. I went to the pharmacy because I needed to refill my prescription. Common subordinators are although, even though, because, since, so that, when, while, before, after. Commas and introductory clauses. An introductory clause comes before the subject or main idea of a sentence and tells us something of value. Example, having read Thoreau in college, comma, Chris McCandless was interested in Thoreau's ideas about living independently. When we introduce our subject with an informational clause like this, we must always insert a comma just before the subject to let the reader know our introduction is finished and the subject and independent clause is now introduced. Without the comma, we could become confused. As the sun rose on a crisp November morning, the loss of a loved one was still upsetting to Gina. Wait, what? Without the comma, we are not sure initially if mourning the loss is what is intended, or wait, isn't it spelled mourning the loss? Wait, oh, I think the reader means. You never want your reader to have to ask, wait, what? Add the comma for clarity. The underlined portion are the introductory words. As the sun rose on a crisp November morning, comma, the loss of a loved one was upsetting to Gina. Another example. When writing about Henry, the 8th student, who was a young man typing vomits onto the page? Wait, what? Without the comma, the sentence initially seems to refer to Henry the 8th. Without commas, we are lost. Remember that commas create meaning, so add commas for clarity. When writing about Henry, comma, the 8th student, comma, who was a young man typing vomits onto the page. Let me read that again. When writing about Henry, the 8th student, who was a young man typing, vomits onto the page. I don't recommend writing sentences like this. This is just an illustration. In the last example, the phrase, who was a young man typing, is known as an interrupter. An interrupter is a word or word group that interrupts a sentence to provide information. Tim, by the way, isn't my husband. The underlined words interrupt a sentence. We set off the sentence with 2 commas. Here's another example of a clause that we set off with 2 commas. Chip and Dan Heath, comma, who are brothers and best-selling business authors, comma, recently wrote a book about how to create change. The underlined phrase is known as an appositive. It adds information to clarify the subject of the sentence, and we use 2 commas to set off the phrase or clause. True or false? This presentation is now concluded. Yes, it is. I hope you enjoyed this exercise, this presentation on comma splices. And now most of you will be going on to take the quiz associated with Lab 5. We'll see you next time.